TechAfrica News Podcast from Africa for Africa. In partnership with Smart Africa. Good morning, Roman. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Akim. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Very well, thanks.
Perfect. Roman, the importance of the mobile sector for economies in Africa plays, let's say, a big role in all conversations we had during trade shows, during conferences this year, and even when you see the latest reports from GSMA Africa. What is your take on that?
Well, first of all telecommunication is mobile now. It's hard to differentiate what is fixed and what is mobile. If you start doing that, where would you end up? So convergence is a big thing. And then we speak about mobility, and that's basically speaking about the telecommunication as a whole. So and the impact on Africa is probably even bigger than on other parts of the world where we used to have pre-existing infrastructure. We had some ways of doing that. They may seem archaic now, but people still kind of stick to them. Imagine there are still the whole industries in the States where people rely on faxes. I do have a big customer of mine in America. They provide the ability to send and receive faxes for people because people still do that. When was the last time you saw a fax in Africa?
To be honest, I can't even remember I have seen one.
Yes, that's the point. So archaic things are non-existent here. So, and when people bring new technologies right away without had to adjust to what people used to do, like faxes. So for Africa, it's good because it changes our life in a pretty bizarre ways. We still call those devices phones, but we speak less and less and less because you do things which you normally wouldn't do on a computer before. Imagine 20 years ago you would say, instead of the phone you would have a pocket computer and you will use it A, for listening to podcasts, and B, for calling a taxi. Well, you don't actually call a taxi; you just tap on your device. So that's telecommunication. That's Africa.
So you just mentioned that communication changed, of course, over the years. So from your experience, what would you say is unique in Africa in terms of adaptation of technology and probably speed, how they, let's say, use innovations? You just mentioned fax. I mean, I can't even remember, but especially if you look at mobile money, that basically was developed in Africa like that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I usually prefer not to speak about Africa as a continent. It's more than 50 different countries, and the situation in those 50 different countries can be very different in terms of the development of telecommunication. You see very closed, totally unliberalized markets in Africa, where all people can do is basically to rely on the incumbent, and that's it. And usually those markets are characterized by less innovation, obviously, less competition, less innovation. Then you see extremely liberalized markets like South Africa, where you virtually need no license to do things. You simply create your business, find your target audience, and provide the best service you can deliver to them. So let's speak about different countries, about South Africa. What's unique here? Yeah, lots of small niches, total freedom in who can get to those niches, and I believe it's very good for every South African because that's how you get better service for less.
When we look at services throughout Africa, and you just mentioned that we can't see it as a continent due to their probably different setups in terms of policies, regulations. What would you say is the most interesting market for you with your service proposition?
Well, PortaOne develops the backend software for telecoms of different sizes. We do have a few bigger guys, like a few Vodafones, T-Mobile, national carriers in countries like Malaysia. But our sweet spot are tier 2 and sometimes tier 3, like the smallest operators possible. So for us, a good market is where there are a lot of players. So if there are only 3 carriers, standard mobile operators, I don't know, Vodacom, MTN, and I don't know, Airtel. That's not really an interesting market for us, because we could go to Joburg and would encounter, I don't know, 20 tier 2 service providers just in a walking distance from each other. So for us, South Africa, Kenya, and I hope Nigeria in the nearest future are the most interesting markets, just because of the sheer number of mid-size operators there.
All right. You just mentioned a market where there's more competition, where more players is the most interesting for you. We saw recently that there's kind of a rise of MVNOs throughout Africa. So what is your opinion about MVNOs in Africa? And are there real business cases, business models? Also could probably differentiate from country to country.
Well, first of all, yes, there are different business models, and for Africa, it's mainly about regulation again. I don't believe that African businessmen are like fundamentally different from any other businessman in the world. They want to bring value to their customers. They want to increase their margins. They want to bring the value to the shareholders. That's what every businessman wants. And Africa is not different and should not be different in that context. But regulation can be different, and regulation affects MVNOs first of all. It can be, as I said, as liberal as in South Africa. You just need to strike a deal with the mobile operator. Or it can be as restrictive as in Nigeria, where you cannot start a business without buying a pretty expensive license for becoming an MVNO. But that's not the only problem.
But this also limits then technically the economical empowerment in countries, because you're not able to easily, let's say, access the market or use the market to, let's say, create business, creating revenue at the end of the day, and you also pay tax.
True, but again, unfortunately, markets do not fix everything. So there are market failures, and that's why you need the regulation. From the opposite point of view, from the point of mobile operators and their investors, they invested a lot of money into their infrastructure. They want those investments to be paid off, and MVNO is one of the ways to recover those investments. But again, the way how they should do it, it should be given to common understanding and implemented and reinforced by regulators. So Nigeria is a very interesting case. They issued over 40 licenses for MVNOs like almost 2 years ago, but they still haven't decided on the formula of how MVNOs are going to be paying to mobile operators. So although people spend money and were ready to start their businesses, they are not yet ready. I'm speaking to Nigerians like almost on a daily basis. Lots of them are very frustrated.
So it's not moving forward.
Well, I hope it will move forward for as long as Nigerian Communication Commission, their local authority, will decide on how they want the business in that country to be structured. That's up to Nigerians. But again, there are a lot of Nigerians, and some of them are still kind of delaying the decisions. Some are protecting their investments, and some are eager to start new businesses. So,
True. So, in your role at PortaOne, what would you say, based on your experience, are the most successful MVNO business models for Africa?
Good question. Well, successful MVNOs seem to approach to success with kind of different ways. Like there are franchises like Benamara or Leica Mobile. Like they create a working business model and then replicate it in a different country and a different country and a different country, and that's how we become big. That can be a very good model in Africa. Remember, 52 or 53 countries in Africa, depending on how you count, right? The second model would be high volumes, like probably low revenue, which is also kind of a reality in Africa. The average revenue per user is low, and we don't expect it to raise significantly.
So it's more about quantity then.
Yeah, so you structure your business on high volumes, like maybe IoT. Like I have a very good case in Brazil, and I don't see how that cannot be transferred to Africa. Like put your SIM cards in every device possible, like tracking devices, sensors, different crazy business models and so on. I don't know if I told you before, like in Brazil they measure the amount of whiskey poured in a glass and then deduct it from your virtual bottle in your app on mobile phone. So, but to measure the amount of whiskey, you need it to be connected to the internet. So a SIM card should be basically built in a bar. So that's a case for IoT. And there should be a service provider who is able to do that. And I don't think people like MTN or Cell C or Vodacom are really interested in this kind of innovating ideas. So MVNOs in Africa, well, not in Africa, everywhere, should look for those niches who would bring maybe lower margins but very high volumes. Then the third model, like again, maybe higher margins with a lower amount of people. I've seen several different cases of people launching the MVNOs for sea-to-shore communication. Lots of sea traffic is going along the coast, and instead of relying on a very expensive satellite, they can rely on the data through the wireless technology available just from the coast. And I see that MVNOs can be a perfect example for this kind of business model.
So we could say there are many ways how an MVNO could start or be successful, but we also could say it's very important to do your analytics, to understand your market, understand your needs, and understand if there's really such a high demand, if you talk about the quantity business.
So you're asking what can be visualized?
No, I just try to understand. If you look at all these pillars you just mentioned, at the end of the day, it's a pure quantity business. So you just cannot start with an idea by not knowing if the demand is really there. You know, it sounds very fancy to start to become MVNO. There's several ways you can do it. You know, banks become MVNOs. You know, retail stores become MVNOs, but not all of them are successful in the long term. You know?
Of course, as any other business. But I have to disagree. I don't believe that people should kind of submit to the idea that telecoms is only about volumes and it's commodity and nothing else. I actually a big proponent of a totally different message. I do believe that since minutes and gigabytes are becoming commodity, you need to create a business around that and bring value and some brand excitement, if you wish, even to those things which seem totally copyable and kind of boring. But yeah, you sell, if you decide that you sell minutes or gigabytes and that's it, then it's a volume business. You should just need to create more and more and more volume, and there should be an end at some point. Or maybe you should create something else. Maybe you create a convenience of usage, and your customer experience is so different from rest of the crowd that people are happy to pay you twice as much. And I see that in Europe, and I don't see how that cannot be copied in Africa. I live in Barcelona. It's a very international city. Like somewhere between, I don't know, 1/5 and a quarter of all population is born outside of Spain. People speak different languages, so you can see MVNOs targeting specifically English speakers or Catalan speakers or Russian speakers for that sake, and people eager pay them more, like more than an average customer, just because they prefer special perks. So, and it's no longer about minutes. It's about what you do when you need something from your operator and how they talk to you. That becomes much more important to people, not the cost per minute.
So more about a customer-centric support, a customer-centric strategy.
Yes, and I believe South Africa and Nigeria and Kenya as well can be a good place to copy that approach, because it will work in Africa as well.
When we look at the importance of a customer-centric approach in the MVNO business, how important is the software in your organization to help you to make things more efficient? Because customer care can be very expensive, as we know.
Customer care is very expensive, and it does not only require certain vision of how you want to spend your resources, it also kind of pushes you to find the tools to make it more efficient. Make it more efficient means automate it, and that's why you need software. So for customer experience, it's very important to know what would be the right process, and to set up those processes and then back them up with the information details that your people need. So it requires a lot of integrations. We do billing, which is kind of the heart of the back end. It keeps the track of SIM cards of your customers, the products they use, and they account for the consumption and authenticate and authorize the customers to access those services. But when it comes to the customer experience, your agents need to see lots of different information, not only from the billing, but also from KYC systems, where you need to identify your customers and make sure that compliance with the government requirements is in place. And CRM systems, you need to see the history of communication with the customers, predict the demand, use the history of communication with the customer as your tool to upsell to that customer as well. So, and you need those different systems to communicate to each other. That used to be a huge challenge. Now we have integration platforms as a service, which allow integrate those systems on the fly. Instead of deploying a big team of integration engineers and coders to write the code, now you have all these low-code or no-code systems that will do it for you.
So, and how important is it? Let's say on one side you need to have your business strategy or business case, and on the other side you need also be able to streamline what you would like to achieve. So would you say the software builds the foundation of the service?
The software is basically a tool which defines how efficient you can be. Like imagine you can build a house with very basic tools, but that house is going to be rough and basic. So if you need something refined, something tailored specifically to your needs, that you need sophisticated software. Yeah. You're right. So software is not a foundation. Software is a tool. And then you can master the applications of those tools, but you still need a good tool to deliver a good service.
All right. When we see competitive markets, high competitive markets, what is important for telcos or for operators to stay, let's say, competitive on a top level?
Well, that's a big question. Like usually people ask that on the exam of like business 101. You need to keep costs under control. So now there are so many different commercial models that, especially in IT industry, in telecoms and software development, that can adjust to the specific needs of each particular operator. So keeping costs under control. Like it can be like in different cases it can be different models, but the good thing, we have a variety to choose from. We can pay investors' money in a bulk at the beginning, buy perpetual licenses for the product, so we can use it as software as a service to pay a monthly fee depending on the capacity that you use. The second thing is clear differentiation of what you do and for whom you do that. I still kind of qualify lots of leads nowadays, and that's my first question. Not about the exact functionality of the system they are looking for, not about the specific features or something. Tell me about what you're going to be doing and to what sort of customers you're going to position your services. Many people just don't think about it. And it's usually a bad sign in terms of my expectations of what their service, their business would look like. So try to define, like, not just because you want to have an MVNO, but how that MVNO is going to be different from the rest of the crowd. Yeah. And the third thing that we already talked about, the most straightforward way of making sure that your business is no longer a commodity, focus on the customer experience and customer care.
You mentioned earlier Brazil in terms of IoT. How do you see IoT in the African market or African countries, and do you think we are ready to implement it?
Yes, I believe for as long as there is a mobile network, there is nothing to preventing anybody of creating IoT markets. So Africa is no different from Brazil. They need to track the goods, the cargos. They need. Africa is big, as Brazil is big. So you need to have different sensors in remote locations. So you need to take care of people in remote villages. And if there is a internet connectivity, you can organize, I don't know, telemedicine for them as well. And in many cases, it will be the only way of providing healthcare. So telehealthcare is better than no healthcare.
Yeah, I agree.
So And your doctors are not going to be interested in setting up those networks. So if you know how to set up a mobile network, that's a huge business opportunity for you, especially in Africa.
I remember last year at Mobile World Congress in Kigali, we talked about your IoT gateway you presented there. Over the last 12 months, did you have some fruitful conversations on the continent about IoT?
Oh, yes. I was in Lagos in July. Lots of interest specifically to IoT Mill, that box I showed you. It's a gateway for different sensors to unify multiple sensors in a single device. And for startups, it's a very easy way to test the minimal viable product. So they can set up the sensors they want, get them connected to the IoT Mill, to the gateway, and then extract the data which they receive from those servers to any external cloud database and cloud storage, so they can be further analyzed and be used to make decision on. So I saw lots of traction for industrial sites in Nigeria, in oil and gas sector, like where you put the sensors in the places where you don't want the humans to go. So, and the reliability of connectivity between those sensors become like totally mission critical because it's fire and hazards and stuff like that. So I believe that IoT is, we will see more and more different use cases and projects specifically in Africa for that.
Do you already see kind of key sectors for IoT?
Everywhere, literally any industrial production, agriculture, like connected cows, totally big thing because
connected cows.
Yes, in Brazil they have the special sensors to inform the owners of the cows and the veterinarians that the cow is gonna be delivering a calf in a few hours. So it allows the vet to get to the specific location where they are, and sometimes it does require a helicopter because the pastures in Brazil are so large, and they used to lose a lot of young calves just because there was no medical attention to them. Now they equip the cows. It costs you, I don't know, probably less than $1 per month. But then you just make sure like that cow is healthy and it doesn't need to be saved.
I never heard about that. Very interesting. IoT was one of the big, say, topics over the last few years, if I remember. So, and from I think mid of last year, when ChatGPT started with the big rollouts, everyone is talking about AI. In a way, I only can remember they talked about big data, for example. So, how do you see AI as a game changer for the industry, especially in a market where you need to accelerate very fast?
I think it's premature today to talk about AI as a game changer, specifically in telecoms. It will come there eventually, and we can speak about how I see where it will come the first. But today, I simply don't see that as more than just an additional piece of functionality. But
you see it from inside of companies or more as a product proposition?
I see AI as a possible applications in different ways of doing business. Like, let me give an example. Call centers, communication to the business customers, technical support, and so on. So, like everything what is about call centers of different sizes, you need to like to create a business process around it, like standard replies and so on.
Yeah.
It's a lot of writing.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is extremely useful for that. They can create those suggestive prompts to the agents of the call centers on the fly. Like we use it for...
So you mean as a support for a human customer care agent?
As a support for human customer care agent, exactly. So I don't believe that in the majority of cases it will be easy to replace human agents right now at the end of 2024. We will come back to that question in 12 months because it's changing so fast. But today I simply don't see the models which can be easily trained to do the work of even junior customer care agents.
I have to say, I've seen it in many tools with the chatbots or chat AI bots. Awful.
They're awful.
It's easier to Google. Mostly it's just a link to, go here to the support forum or whatever. So it's not useful at all.
Absolutely. So the only way, a practical way we can see is basically when you create the workflow for your customer agent, and you can, instead of writing it yourself, you can ask ChatGPT to write those prompts. Like automated marketing outreach. Like you have to write small snippets of text, and you don't want those snippets to be repetitive. Like that's a good work for ChatGPT, but it's a small kind of writing pad. Like it's not that smart enough to replace you. Again, maybe next year it's going to be like totally different. What I can also see, again, my developers do that. They use ChatGPT to write small parts of the code. They see that ChatGPT is working on a level of a junior developer, but it means that it probably needs as much attention as a junior developer because it makes mistakes. Yeah, so it's a good tool which was not available before. Now it probably kind of makes the life of senior architects much easier. They can easily test their ideas with the small code. Yeah. Marketing as well, that I mentioned. We try different things, and it's easy to change, and ChatGPT is a very good thing for that. Call centers, again, that would be interesting to see if ChatGPT would be able to configure big call centers, PBXs, for example. That now it requires a lot of work from very experienced engineers who understand how telecom works, how the software works, instead of just telling ChatGPT, this is the system, this is the result. If you are not sure what to do, ask me a human question. And then it becomes kind of a dialogue between a person who knows what he wants and an automated engineering assistant. Have you seen something like that? I haven't yet. No. But I'm really looking forward to it.
So the more we feed it, probably the smarter it can become. Okay. No, thank you very much. It was very interesting, Roman. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Akim.